100th anniversary, Jake.
Happy 100th anniversary, Nathan.
Happy 100th anniversary, Brandon.
Hey, happy anniversary. 100th.
Hundo. Happy 100th anniversary. Mysterious stranger sitting in the room observing everything.
Our first ever live audience.
Oh, yeah.
Ever.
Clap. Harry Potter.
The greatest movie series of all time.
This is the Bookening.
Based on some okay books. Nope. Folks.
We may not all have that opinion.
We may not all have that opinion. It's possible there's someone in this room that doesn't. Hey, guys, we should tell people what we're doing. First of all, happy 100th episode to everyone. 100th episode. Happy 100th episode, Jake.
Happy 100th episode. We're looking pretty good for 100.
Yeah. Brandon's starting to go a little white.
Hey, saw one too many Dementors.
Mm-hmm. This is what we're doing, folks. You came through. They came through, Jake. They met the Mysterious Phantoms Challenge.
I knew you would.
Greatest fans ever.
Yeah, they are. Brandon?
Yeah.
Let me introduce you for the 100th time. This is the 100th time I'm going to say the same that I say every time.
That seems so...
You've changed it a couple times.
I changed it up. This is the 100th time. This is the 100th time I'm going to say the same thing I say for Jake.
True.
But
I've been this for a while.
You've been this for a while, yeah. Scholar who's a baller of reading, folks. It's Brandon Chastain.
Oh, I see. That's right.
Now, Brandon,
Uh-huh.
I'd like to give you the honor of introducing our good mutual friend.
He's the pastor. He's a master.
Do go on.
And he knows how to read.
Indeed.
Yep. So he is the
Ever
pastor.
since I was a wee little lad, I've
He's
been
the
able to
master
read.
of reading.
That's me.
Jacob Bensel.
Jacob
also
Bensel.
Yo.
CEO of Warhorn Media.
And that stands for Chief Executive Officer.
Whoa.
Sure enough.
Let's talk about some HP.
Let's do it.
Yo.
Like the computer?
Yeah.
I prefer Apple.
Hewlett-Packard.
You're Hewlett-Packard.
I think Hewlett-Packard was HP.
I'm a
was my
Lenovo
first
guy.
computer.
You're a Lenovo guy. What a pathetic thing to say. Guys, we're reading Harry Potter. Are you excited?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
We're going to discuss all kinds of things. Are the movies better? Are the books better? Should Christians read books about Harry Potter? We'll do some donor shout-outs. We're going to save that, though, until we're about halfway through, I think. What's that sound? It's the 100th. Well, actually, we don't do it every episode, so I don't know what number it is, but Brandon's firing off his guns.
We don't do it every episode.
No, we don't. We do it every month.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be interesting to see how many times. We've probably done it, I want to say...
36?
About 36 times or so. You've shot off the old guns, and you've let out a hail and hearty,
Yeehaw.
unlike that one.
Yeehaw.
There we go.
We got a little crack in the voice there.
Throw your 10-gallon hat in.
Oh, yeah.
Fun fact. We'll be revealing one fun fact that our listeners don't know about each one of us. Brandon wears a 10-gallon hat
I do. To sleep at night.
to sleep at night. His wife demands it. Brandon,
Hey.
you fired off the guns. That means we've reached the contextual Texan, the part of the show where you give much needed context to the work. So
Yeah.
you're going to tell us some context about old Harry Potter. Now, folks, we're going to do several episodes. I don't know exactly how many episodes we're going to get out of Harry Potter, but we're not going to do one per book, but we're going to do any number of episodes about Harry Potter, as many as it takes to discuss everything, to give you lots of wisdom about Harry Potter and whether you should like it, whether it's a classic, whether it's something that we think is going to last, whether Christians should read it at all, given the occultic elements and some of the things that people maybe have some problems with in Harry Potter. We're going to discuss all of it. But we're going to start with Brandon, as we always do, giving us some context. So take it away, B.
Hey. In fun fact. Let's throw a fun fact in every now
I
and
like
then.
fun facts.
Fun fact.
All right.
What was J.K. Rowling's, or who is, she's not dead.
Not yet.
Not yet. Who is J.K. Rowling's favorite author? Not her most influential author, but the one she actually says is her favorite.
J.R. Tolkien.
No.
Is it someone we've read?
Yes.
Marilyn Robinson.
No.
Steinbeck.
No.
Tolstoy.
No.
Homer.
No.
Shakespeare.
No.
Is it someone we've read this year?
Yes.
Oh,
Austen.
Yes.
really?
So you and J.K. Rowling share something in common.
Oh, that hurts. I don't like that.
Jane Austen
I don't think I care for that, Jake.
is her favorite.
Why didn't she do
Let
a
me
better...
let this sink in. Jane Austen is her favorate author.
I don't want to tip
That's
my
not
hand.
possible.
Why didn't she do a
I mean,
better
can't you
job?
see all the Austen influences?
There are
Yeah, but
Mrs. Norris, for instance.
yeah, I guess so. That's true.
I can't remember which book, but I actually, as we went through it, there were a whole bunch of Austen references.
All those long conversations they have in Gryffindor Commons.
No, one
It
of
just reveals so much about the characters.
one of the books had a bunch of.
sarcastic.
I think one of the books had a bunch of Mansfield Park references in it,
Probably.
and another one had a bunch of Anna Karenina references.
Yeah, that's probably true. Northanger Abbey would have been a natural one for some references.
Yeah.
I may be making that up, but that's how I felt.
Well, Mrs. Norris is pretty unavoidable.
She's a literate woman. She can read and has read many. In fact, if we just want to jump to her influences for whatever reason, we don't have to do this linear. We don't have to do this in a linear nature.
Brandon, this is the 100th episode. As far as I'm concerned, you've
We're just
earned the
gonna-
right to do whatever you want.
We're just going to do this stream of consciousness
Stream
style
of consciousness.
in a nod to our favorite author, James Joyce.
Frogs.
Frogs falling from the sky. P.T. Anderson. She's no P.T. Anderson.
Anderson Cooper.
Yeah.
It's a thing in Mad Men.
Likes the facts.
Men are married to women.
Yes.
Stream of consciousness.
She's a woman. Back to her.
Yeah.
C.S. Lewis was also an influence.
Not
Surprise, surprise.
surprising.
J.R.R. Tolkien, and she really loved Charles Dickens. You can see Charles Dickens' influences, especially in the names.
Yeah. Crookshanks.
no
She
kidding.
is a big fan of strange and
On the
memorable
nose.
names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dolores Umbridge. I wonder what this character is going to be like. That's a very Dickensian.
Albus Dumbledore.
Malfoy. I wonder if Malfoy's a good
Draco
guy or a
and
bad
Lucius.
guy. Draco and Lucius.
Slytherin.
Slytherin. I bet the good guys go to Slytherin.
Yeah, I bet.
When Malfoy, Draco's son is like Scorpius or Scorpio or something like that.
Yeah.
His next one is called Cancer and
It's like a Rocky villain, Scorpio.
Scorpio.
Apparently, one of her biggest influences is this author named Jessica Mitford.
Never heard of her.
Never heard of her
Should
either,
have.
but she came from an influential family. A lot of her sisters are remembered as being Hitler sympathizers,
Okay.
but she was not a Hitler sympathizer. She courageously stood against her family, was called the Red Sheep, and was a major writer in the early 1900s.
Now, Jake, how do you feel about that Hitler?
Not a fan.
Brandon?
Not
thoughts?
a fan.
I myself, not a fan.
Good.
Mysterious Stranger? Hitler guy? You like old Adolf?
Not a fan.
He's giving a thumbs down.
I think we can narrow it down and say the mysterious stranger is not a Dementor.
Yeah. Well, he gave
Or
a thumbs
Phantom.
down. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a
His
strong moral
Dementors
statement
would
there.
probably be all for Hitler because they were for Harry Potter's Hitler.
Yeah.
Voldemort, they were his supporters. A very strong logic here in the Bookening.
You got a giggle out of our mysterious stranger there. You just the phrase Harry Potter's Hitler.
Harry Potter's Hitler.
I'm gonna write a novel called Harry Potter's Hitler.
Yeah.
All right, Brandon.
So let's get back on track.
Yes.
Put the hors d'oeuvre out. Let's get to the main meal. So let's start with some biography.
Some biography. That's
Bio.
how Brandon likes to start. If we know anything,
That's where
after
we
100
like to start
episodes.
because it's a good place to start. And as every writer knows, you have to start somewhere.
Now, I don't know anything about J.K. Rowling. A lot of times I know something when we go into these things, but I really don't know. I think she's like a single young mother who had kind of a pursuit of happiness kind of life where she was suddenly. That's my impression of her. But
Kinda.
Maybe.
I think that we have much like the quill. What's it called?
Quill.
That lady
Porcupine.
uses.
Rita
in,
Skeeter's quill.
Yeah, Rita Skeeter.
Something quotes quill.
Yeah, the quotes quill. Much like that quotes quill saw the glimmer of sorrow in Harry Potter's eye, I'm pretty sure our news sources have made her story out to be much more than it is, and she even admits to that.
Okay.
She didn't have an awful childhood. She didn't really ever sink that much into poverty. She had some hard times. She's not particularly close to her father.
Interesting.
Surprise.
Her mother had multiple sclerosis. Is that how you say that?
Yeah, that's nasty. That's not
It
good.
eventually killed her, and so a lot of the sorrow that she had over the death of her mother comes into the first Harry Potter book, and it was used to process that. You can see that a lot
Sure.
in that book as well, with Harry finding the mirror. What was the mirror called? The mirror of...
Eris said, desire spelled backwards.
well, look at that. Nerd.
I didn't notice it. My wife did, actually.
Yeah. Okay. well,
Wait, she doesn't actually point that out?
She never points that out.
I don't know. That's actually lamer somehow. I
But
don't
she
know
never points out that Eris said his desire spelled
I
backwards.
mean, it's just, well, I guess I didn't
It's
catch
a
it.
nice sounding name. It's a good
Yeah.
magic
There are a
name.
lot of things like that.
Yeah.
Diagon Alley, diagonally. Nocturne Alley, nocturnally.
Yeah, I noticed all that stuff.
Somebody's smarter than we are.
Obviously.
My wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Who is,
Diagonally.
we should just check in. People are probably concerned. Still kidnapped?
No.
Not to the best of my knowledge.
I don't believe they are.
Yeah.
So we don't actually know. Okay.
I don't normally go home.
Right.
I mean, I'm usually getting ready for this.
Because the mysterious phantom had kidnapped them both, and we've got the money, but then he disappeared. I don't know. We'll find out about their wives later, folks.
Yeah, next episode.
Yeah, next
I'm sure
episode.
they're fine. I'll text or something.
Yeah. Well, she's tied to train tracks
I think
right
I
now.
can FaceTime now.
You FaceTime?
Yeah.
Toy train track tied to her head.
But it's still not a good situation to be in.
Should be all right.
This is fine.
All right.
All right.
So you guys as wives, I'm,
So,
single man myself.
back to Baya.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the reason she's so obsessed with names. This is a hot theory right here. I've never heard this before. Her name was Joan Rowling. We actually say it Rowling.
Rolling?
Yeah. We Brits, we say it Rolling.
We actually say it rolling,
Rolling. And it was a part of her burden she had to bear her whole life. The people would make fun of her name for being Rowling. And so, in fact, when she became a French instructor after she came back to Britain after her excursion into where she went
France?
to teach English as a second language, our assistant's going to look it up. You look it up? Thanks.
Thanks, assistant.
Where did she teach English as a second language? Anyways, she came back. That's where she had her first husband.
Is that Mr. Rowling, or is Rowling her maiden name?
No. She
That's her
didn't
maiden
keep his
name. She
name.
grew
Her
up with
first husband was named
Rowling.
Jorge Arantes,
Okay.
which makes me think it was a South, a Spanish-speaking country.
Is that his shriveled head in the bus?
Yes, that is his head. Fun fact.
Fascinating.
Anyways, when she came back and she was a French instructor, Portugal. Thank you.
Portugal.
It was Portugal.
Pretty sure they speak Portuguese in Portugal.
They speak Portuguese. She went to teach English as a second language there. When she came back, she became a French instructor, and as she would walk out of the class, her students would sing, "Rolling, rolling, rolling." The cattle
In her
rolling,
face.
rawhide. So it was a burden she had to bear her whole life. The fact that she was
so
named
sad.
Rolling. But in America, we call her Rowling because we like to appropriate everything British and twist it to our own.
Wait, so what is it? What does she call herself?
Rolling.
Rolling. So the fact that I've called her Rowling my whole life, I've
Brad
been doing
could
it wrong.
Everybody
Confirm.
we've ever known and ever heard of calls her Rowling.
I'm pretty sure Brad could confirm for us. Brad, what do you guys call
Hit
her
us
over
up,
there?
Brad.
She was born in Gloucestershire, England, and her father was an aircraft engineer, and her mother was a science technician.
Don't you just say it Gloucester?
Gloucester, probably. In an early picture of how she would take her experience and put it into her books, her parents apparently met at King's Crossing on a train.
Ah.
And so trains become an important imagery in the
King's
Harry Potter
Crossing.
books. Yep. Had a fairly, she calls it unhappy childhood. It seems to be just a fairly normal but not exciting childhood. She wasn't overly close to her father. She doesn't really divulge a whole lot about that. I tried to read interviews where she would talk a lot about her father. The most I ever got was the fact that she just really doesn't speak to him anymore. So they're not on speaking terms. I don't know if it has to do with the fact that he was distant from their mother or if there's something else beyond that. Her mother got multiple sclerosis, died after she got back from teaching in Portugal, so we'll get there in a minute.
Okay.
But that would be very influential also on her life and her writing. As she was growing up, she, like C.S. Lewis, liked to tell stories, and she told stories to her sister Dee. In one interview I saw, or actually just a little piece she wrote about her own, kind of like a small autobiographical piece, she said that she would tell rabbit stories a lot to her sister growing up. And they had little worlds they would create with these rabbits in them. And so she was a storyteller from a young age, like we see with C.S. Lewis, we saw with Dickens. Well, we haven't seen with Dickens,
Is she a fan of
but we will see with Dickens.
Beatrix?
She never said. You would imagine she would be. But she told these stories, and she would go to the various schools. She went to a little primary school in the town they grew up in, and then they moved to the Forest of Dean, where she attended Whiting Comprehensive Academy, which apparently, to this day, their claim to fame is the fact that J.K. Rowling went to Whiting Comprehensive Academy. But she says of herself that she would tell stories at lunch to the other girls, kind of just stories about themselves, little adventure tales, and that also she became the head girl. So she was a fairly successful in her academic career. She applied to get into Oxford, didn't get in, and so she went to Exeter instead, where she studied French. She says much to her chagrin, because her mother told her that she should try and become a bilingual secretary, which is what she did. She became a bilingual secretary for Amnesty International, quickly found herself not so thrilled about that prospect, so she got a job teaching English as a second language in Portugal, where she met her first husband, Jorge Arantes. Had her first daughter, which she named. We've already had foreshadowing of this, Jessica, after Jessica Mitford. her favorite writer, the Red Sheep. So they had a troubled marriage. She came back to England. He would try to come and pursue them, but she would eventually take out a order of restraint against him, is what they call it in Britain.
An order of restraint.
Because they have to be fancy with everything.
Mm-hmm.
Also known here as a restraining order.
Okay.
And he had to go back to Portugal, and that was the last of him. And this is where the sort of...
The last of
that was the last of him.
She ever murdered
She did the
or
Avada Kedavra curse on him. That's where she created that. So it was during this period that most biographies that we know of J.K. Rowling kind of focus, because when she comes back, she feels like a failure. She went to university. She's tried to have a career. She failed as a bilingual secretary because she says that as she was a secretary, she would always have her head in the clouds, creating stories. She attempted to write 2 novels that were failures at the time. She just kind of scrapped them. And then it was during one period where I forget where she was. It was like on a bus or something. But it's kind of like we've seen this before with C.S. Lewis, where you just suddenly have the image of the light of the lamp in the snow. Suddenly, just fully realized to her was this world of wizards, where you go to a boarding school to be taught how to be a wizard. And she said it just seemed real. It seemed this world just came to her. She started writing stories about this character, Harry Potter, who she named after the Potters, who were 2 children that she played with growing up.
Ian and something.
Ian and, yeah, I had it written down here somewhere.
Shouldn't have interrupted you, sorry.
Yeah, they friends growing up in Winterbourne, they were the Potters. I didn't have their names written down. And in fact, also another major character in the books, she would base on herself at 11 in school, who was awkward and kind of shy, but also bookish, which would be Hermione Granger. So
You
apparently
don't say.
Yeah, Hermione is based on J.K. Rowling.
I'm so shocked and surprised.
Oh, yeah. So,
Knock me down with the feather.
so during this period, the period after she comes back to America, she has this idea that just comes to her fully formed. She starts
She comes
writing.
back to America?
No, sorry, England.
Yeah.
Thank you. She doesn't come to America. America doesn't picture in this at all, except in making her rich, as we generally do.
Mm-hmm.
It's our gift.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're welcome, Rowling.
Or as we like to call you, Rowling.
Rowling.
It's our prerogative. We made you what you are
Yeah.
today.
Except one last fun fact is apparently she was born in Chipping Sudbury Hospital, which she says is a fortuitous because it showed from her earliest days that she would be obsessed with funny, expressive names. There you go. She saw it as being like the call over David Copperfield's head.
Can I just say,
Yeah.
this may be entirely uncharitable, but multiple times now I've thought, I don't buy any of her self-mythologizing at all.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's true,
I was
but
thinking the same thing.
I sure don't buy
she's
it.
always telling stories.
Yeah, and then
Yes.
the
I don't-
world
I don't
came
buy it
fully
either.
formed. Like,
Yeah.
just all those kinds of things, just, they do, it's...
What I buy is that she probably had inspiration somehow, and it just kind of clicked.
Oh, sure.
And she had the idea. But all the other stuff about her childhood, she's trying to reimagine her youth as a storyteller. While we have her sister corroborates the stories.
About
from
the
her-
rabbits.
About the
Right.
rabbits.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be completely cynical. It's just... It all sounds kind of neat. It sounds like what you would write if you were doing
Well,
the
It sounds
the
like
This is
bio-
where we are.
It
We're-
keeps
we're
reminding
actually
me of
getting
the way
there.
that Madeline L'Engle tells
We're-
her story.
Yeah, precisely.
We're getting there. So here's actually then, you have had people then come and try to tell the narrative in other ways. Mm-hmm. What it seems like is the truth is that, like I said earlier, she loved her mother, had a disappointing childhood with her father. He was distant for some reason. She was fairly intelligent and clever. She was the head girl. That's corroborated. But otherwise, we don't know a whole lot about who she was or her child, other than
Well,
what she's told us. And people have told
Nobody
us.
would want to argue with her
Yeah,
against
exactly.
her intelligence. I mean,
She's done pretty well for herself.
Everybody who grew up with her is going to want to help with this mythology of who she is now.
Sure, yeah.
Right. So that the point to be made there is when you're trying to pierce and figure out who an author was, especially either a modern author or someone like even Dickens, you would get all these people that would like make up these stories about them, and it's really hard to actually get at who they were. Right. So you have these stories about Dickens throwing these amazing Christmas parties and always just being this jolly, happy guy.
Right.
Mr. Fezziwig.
Yeah, but then he committed adultery with his actress and abandoned his wife. So you got to have discernment and pierce through
Yeah.
the cloud. The people are the patina.
The golden haze.
I love the golden haze. The patina, the golden haze.
Who doesn't?
But this is the period where she dealt with a lot. She had to go into government welfare. She had this child she was trying to provide for. She was working as a French teacher for like the British equivalent of the elementary schools. She was dealing with depression at the time, like severe depression considered suicide. And apparently that's where the Dementors come from. And not Tolkien, whatever. the aspect the Dementors have with depression is that they suck all the happiness out of the world. Who needs? Yeah, that's the deepest thing anybody's ever said about depression.
Is that okay? Yeah.
I don't mean to be mean.
No, we should say we all, to varying degrees, and there is some variation here, but we all enjoy these novels. So
yeah, I think the important point to be made here is that we take for granted, and people do this with the news. If you go read Amusing Yourselves to Death, or Amusing Ourselves to Death, where he points out the fact that the news creates reality for us.
Right.
And we just accept it without any sort of discernment, without any sort of shifting through what's true, what's false. And that's what we get with our authors too. So you got to take it with a grain of salt. Whatever she says about herself may or may not be true, and whatever The Guardian says about her may or may not be true.
Yeah.
Because they want her to be the author of Harry Potter.
Yeah. I assume all of it has an element of truth. I assume she's probably not setting out to tell lies or create a tall tale. It's just interesting to try to read between the lines.
There are two aspects of her biography where we're going to get to that we do need to, I think, are helpful to look at now, because she will eventually become the 197th richest person in the world, and she will eventually give most of that away to charity. She's a lot like Bill Gates in that fact that she lives very modestly. Her house is fairly nice, but it would be no nicer than like what a well-tenured professor here at IU would live in, right? She's not living in the mansion that Mark Cuban lives in. She has a fairly modest life, fairly quiet life. She's married to a doctor now. His name is Neil Murray. Has 3 children, and in one of the interviews I read, was talking to this other fairly famous journalist from Britain. Kind of actually made me like Rowling a little better. The journalist was like saying, I think I've had enough children. And Rowling was like saying, really? That seems kind of strange. I think if I could have more, I would. I love children. So she seems like a quiet woman who doesn't want to be in the spotlight, has given most of her money away, not really to charities that we would even see issues with, to poverty, to helping young mothers who they don't have a husband to provide for her and them and the children. So, and also multiple sclerosis, the foundation there. So that's where she's given most of her money away, to those foundations. So how did she get there? Well, I think we know. In the mid-90s, she writes Harry Potter. She goes to a agent, and he gets excited, and he starts to shop it around. They get to 12 publishers who all turn it down because they just don't know if children's books are selling anymore. Children really aren't reading anymore. So we need to pause there for a minute, because this is a real fact of the 90s. In the 90s, we're all kind of the same age. Even our hidden guest over here.
Illustrious hidden guest.
Is kind of a little bit he's kind of the same age as us. We all grew up with Saturday morning cartoons. We all grew up with the rise of the internet, with MTV, with VH1, with the rise of cable television, all these things that were video games. The big thing, video games, huge. What this meant is that as this culture began to grow and capitalism, all these things began to realize they could make a whole lot of money off this, guess which market started to die?
Books.
The book market. Children weren't reading anymore. And so here she comes. She's got this book.
It was anti-cool to read.
Yeah, it was not cool to read. That's right. The only thing you could read.
Smart people by calling them books.
Yeah. You could read Goosebumps.
Yeah, that's why I read Goosebumps, is because I wanted to read an escape, and I needed something that was passably cool enough.
Yeah.
And so it was Goosebumps.
Yeah, and I would read Goosebumps at my cousin's house, and I would think, this is kind of cool. And then I would end up reading what else I wanted to read.
You just weren't as cool as Jake?
I guess. Yeah,
you're also classically educated. I was in the public schools.
I know.
And you're fatter than Jake.
I am. Not then.
Highly relevant fact.
Highly relevant. Thank you, Nathan. I think that's the second time that's been pointed out. I'm pleasantly plump.
I myself, even more pleasantly, almost unpleasantly plump.
It was the Phantom that pointed it out the first time.
Yeah, that's right.
Did the Phantom say you were fat?
He said I was chubby.
Yeah, chubby.
Well, I'm sure he would feel bad about that. He may not have control over the things he says. Probably. I don't know.
So, how did we get here? Books.
Right.
Children weren't reading.
Cool.
Right.
Books weren't cool. It was the 90s. And so here she comes with this book that I think we all would agree is many, many times better than R.L. Stein's books.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. It's about a wizard. It's about all these things that these guys would see. I'm not going to sell many of these. And in fact, that's what the first person said. She got this one publisher to look at it, and he was interested. They said, we might sell 800 of these. And that's going to be it, and you just need to be okay with that. Because I really don't make a whole lot of money off children's books. So what happens? They put it on the shelves. It kind of becomes a hit. It starts winning prizes. Enough that she then publishes Chamber of Secrets. And then you get the big thing. In 97, America bids on these books. And so this is all in 95.
Philosopher's Stone.
Philosopher's Stone is 95. Philosopher's Stone in Britain. America Scholastic, big publisher, they have a bidding war. In fact, it goes to auction. I guess they're book auctions that this happens at, where they all auction off who's going to get this. Bids for it and wins for $105,000. And when she hears this, she just knows her life has changed. And she's able to go and she finds a nice house for her and her daughter. And then Chamber of Secrets sells even more copies. And then in 99, Prisoner of Azkaban sells even more copies. And then by 2000, as soon as the book is released in 2000, Goblet of Fire sells 3 million copies in America alone, like the first day. It's insane. No book had really ever seen this amount of success. It was crazy. And not only a book like, so some books had been fairly successful. The Guy We Almost Had to Read, James
Patterson.
Patterson. They're fairly successful.
Thank you for saving us.
Yes, thank you so
thank
much.
you for saving us from that. The difference with this, though, is that she's a decent writer. She's good. She's telling stories that will eventually become a modern myth that are so relevant and hit at something so either true or enticing. Well, I guess we'll get to that. We'll talk about it.
That's a large part of what we're going to get at.
It's as much as part of our zeitgeist as the books that Dickens wrote, as some of Shakespeare's plays.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure how to quantify this kind of thing, but I feel like bigger than Star Wars.
Yes.
Bigger than
Star Wars is a good example.
Marvel.
Yeah, Star Wars, I think,
it's huge.
It's a really good comparison for a lot of reasons.
But this myth, and not just the myth, but the world that comes with it, it's now a part of our culture. It's a part of our society. It's part of who we are, how we talk to one another, how we think. This art has really shaped our culture. By 2007, when the final book is released, it broke records by selling 11 million copies in the first day. It's insane.
I remember showing up at Barnes & Noble's that day. And it was the night before. It was like 7 o'clock in the evening, and the parking lot was full. There was a crowd outside. I mean, I've been to like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings opening days, but this was something else. I mean, everybody was dressed in Harry Potter stuff. And it was just our local Barnes & Nobles, but it was crazy. People were camped out. Then this was the night before. It wasn't going to come out until midnight that night for a book.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say that no book has had that amount of influence since Harry Potter. Yeah. And I'm not sure that, so it's now, as far as a series goes, it has sold more copies than any other book series in history. It's outstripped The Lord of the Rings, Chronicles of Narnia, probably both put together, to be honest. It's a huge phenomenon. And those sorts of huge phenomenon can't help but shape culture.
Sure.
And so we have to realize what we're dealing with from the beginning. This could potentially be the most influential book we've ever read.
Well, I think,
weirdly enough,
the triumph of nerd culture does a whole lot to Harry Potter. I mean, whatever you want to say about getting people to read or not getting people to read or whatever, what these books did do is make reading cool. Yeah. It was cool. It was okay for anybody to read.
Yeah.
It was safe to read Harry Potter. And it didn't matter what the hierarchy at your school was.
And the other thing that it helped with the nerd culture is it made things that people originally thought were just for kids okay for adults as well.
Yeah.
Because these kids read Harry Potter as Harry Potter grew up. And so the kids that started reading Harry Potter in 95 were still reading Harry Potter in 2007 when the last one came out. And they were adults at that point. And so naturally, around 2007 is when we start seeing the Marvel movies, at least rumors of them, right? So
2007
years, so
2007 is when the first Marvel movie came out, as a matter of fact, wasn't it?
And so at that point, Harry Potter, I think you're right, Jake. I hadn't ever thought of it before, but yeah. Harry Potter did a lot of that work of both making the nerd culture cool, but also making it cool for adults to participate.
Yeah, and also really selling the idea of really built out and lived in worlds.
Yeah, because if you watch
in a way that nobody had really. It was Star Wars and Star Trek.
Right? And those things had been done, but had they been embraced by culture at large before? I would have
still made fun of Star Wars and Star Trek geeks.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it was a specialized thing that a few
and now
nerds
I am
at your
one.
school. Yeah.
She wins. And she's a big part of that, of the winning.
Yeah. Absolutely. And we'll talk about in a minute what she does that's different than Star Trek, which is what Star Wars also does, is she does create a myth.
Right.
And that myth is very essential for that story. I would argue that Harry Potter is going to be one of our cultural artifacts that lasts a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think there's any question.
I mean, do I actually seriously think she's as important as Shakespeare? No. But do I think she will last a long time and be looked at as a major cultural artifact like Dickens or something along those lines?
A game changer?
Well, I'll tell you what else is going to last forever. Dracula. Is it in any way a quality novel? Not really. But is it an iconic mythological creation, yes. Now,
Right.
Harry Potter may well be more quality, but we'll get to that. But my only point in saying all that is, yeah. Okay, fair enough. Yes, I agree.
Hands down, no argument there.
Yeah, but a savvy bit of myth
But
making.
Harry together with Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Well, now you have something.
Now, guys, how about we make $1 gazillion?
Harry marries Buffy.
Harry marries Buffy. Call Joss Whedon.
There's something about Harry's marries brother Buffy.
Okay. So just a few things we haven't touched on with her bio. We in 2001, something else happens that makes her not just a millionaire but a billionaire. From the movies, Hollywood gets involved. They buy the rights to these, and she, being a fairly good businesswoman along the lines of George Lucas, she says that she needs to have some sort of say over the story, and so she helps shape these movies. She has an interest in fact, in 6 and 7, she's accounted as a producer and has her hand involved.
That.
Yeah, she has her hand involved in all the movies. So she doesn't give over control of the movies. That's why the movies are very
disappointing to know, actually.
That's disappointing to know. Well, that's right.
Oh,
You don't like the movie.
Okay.
I don't not like them.
We'll get to that. The movies are great.
But that's why the movies are, even if they're pared down, they are very faithful to the books. So, because she had her hands in them. After Harry Potter 2007, she starts a website called Pottermore where she has all the Harry Potter arcana. She promises that she'll have an encyclopedia of Harry Potter trivia, which it's been in the writing for years. She says it's going to take 10 years, and that was 10 years ago.
She's 20th anniversary this year of the Sorcerer's Stone.
Really?
Yeah, just like as of this recording a couple of days ago, I think, or in the last week, the 20th anniversary of the publication of the Sorcerer's Stone.
Wow. Well, there we go.
There you go.
It's a great year to be releasing 100th episode extravaganza on it.
Great year to be alive.
Yeah, great year to be alive. So you have this, then you have the Hogwarts that's built at Universal Studios. She still has, I think she has interest in that as well.
Can I just say, I would very much like to go to that.
I've heard it's phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard it's really cool.
I was watching The Ringer, which is mostly a sports website, but also a pop culture website. They have a podcast called Binge Mode that's been going through the Harry Potter stuff. I've not listened to, but they have a bunch of Instagram stories of the hosts of Binge Mode going and checking out Hogwarts and all that sort of thing. And
now, Jake, are you trying to tell me that
compelling.
Another podcast has handled Harry Potter?
Is in process of handling. They're handling it much more in depth than we are. They're doing it like 5 chapters at a time, sort of close read stuff.
I really thought we were the first podcast to tackle the subject of Harry Potter.
Man.
I
give up.
At least Binge Mode. Probably no other podcasts have talked about Harry Potter.
Don't even go look it up, Nathan. Just trust Jake.
Use the Kenneth Branagh curse on me so that I don't even have to know.
Kenneth Branagh curse.
Whatever it's called. Scramble my brain.
Oh, right.
Scramble Brainios.
Scramble Brainios.
I thought that you were Obliviate. That's the one that you're talking about.
Kenneth Branagh gets obliviated, doesn't he?
He does, yeah.
Professor
He
Lockhart.
obliviates himself,
I know
yeah.
the books.
So,
yes, there's the Spear Danes in Days Gone
Gilderoy
By. A needle's
Lockhart.
pulling thread.
yes, but no.
I actually thought when you said Kenneth Branagh, you were trying to come up with Avada Kedavra. I don't know why that just sort of in my head. It was the kind of thing that you would do.
Just like I can't come up with the word. Yeah, I can see how I would do that.
Kenneth Branagh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Spirit Danes and Days Gone By had courage and greatness. Nothing you can do with them.
What?
What?
What did you say?
Who's on first? What's on second? Where was I? Oh, so the Harry Potter world still lives on. We've got the Fantastic Beasts.
Who's on third?
Where to find them?
I don't know.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know who's on third.
Yeah.
It's. Yeah. So we have these movies now. We have The Cursed Child, which apparently was a fairly successful Broadway play, right?
Yeah.
Would be fun to go see.
Was it Broadway or was it a stage play?
It was West End in London, I think.
That's right.
First.
Yeah.
But I think it's traveling.
Yeah, I think it made it to Broadway.
That'd be awesome if it's in Chicago.
It just won a bunch of awards,
when we do our,
right? Oh yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah,
we should totally do that.
I'm sure we would need lots of money to do that.
I'm sure it's expensive.
I'm sure it'd be worth it.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
If our Bookening supporters want to expecto Patreon us.
Yeah, expecto Patreonis.
Expecto Patreonis.
Send us to see Harry Potter on the stage.
Or we'll abracadabra you.
Yeah, that's right. Abracadabra, not Avada Kedavra. It's a difference. And then finally, to wrap up her bio, which I guess will be the
I appreciate
largest...
you making that distinction, Brandon.
Thank you. We don't Avada Kedavra anyone here. It's Avada Kedavra free zone.
That's the only thing that's like bad in
that world. The only thing.
The only thing.
It's like the only thing.
Besides the pro style.
Yeah.
Ooh. Got magical
So she has had a post-Harry Potter career. In 2011, she wrote Casual Vacancy.
The Casual Vacancy.
Which we've all heard of and read.
Yeah, which had some success. It seems like most of the reviews that I read about it are kind of like, it's J.K. Rowling. It's nice to see her doing something different.
Yeah. Yeah. That was kind of the tone.
So
like, they're there.
Yeah. Some people said it's fun.
It got a BBC thing, yeah.
The BBC turned it into a series, 3-episode series. I haven't watched it. I haven't tried to read it either. And then she did a fun thing where she wrote under a pseudonym called Robert Galbraith, a detective novel. There was some scandal around, so it got a lot of actually good reviews. But then it came out that the people giving the good reviews were actually good friends with Rowling. And it came out on Twitter that she had written the book. And so some people are saying, well, yeah, they probably just gave it because it was some sort of publicity stunt. From what I understand, they're fine. I bet my wife would actually enjoy them, now that I'm thinking of Danny.
There's more than one? Or
yeah, there are 3 of them.
Danny M., read them.
Let us know. That's right. That'd be a fun little episode to have her on. Give us her thoughts. Little reporter.
Yeah.
Danny, if you read them, you can come on and do a little episode and tell us your thoughts. I don't promise that we'll read them, but...
To Dubstep.
Yeah.
Dubstep Danny, come back and talk to us about the books of Robert Galbraith, a.k.a. J.K. Rowling. Shares the initials of J.K. Menzel. The one and only.
Enough.
She does.
She does. I wonder if Jake is an influence on her.
Probably.
He does have that lightning scar on his forehead.
So that's her bio. Well, she's become very, 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 very rich. Even after she gave most of her money away, she's still very rich, and she's married to a doctor. So I'm sure even if she lost all her Harry Potter money, they'd still be rich. So she's fine. If anybody's worried,
okay,
she's fine. That was a long bio, but we still have more to talk about.
All right, we'll talk away.
But is there...
Oh, shoot, yeah. Right after this... Hey, everybody. Welcome to Donor Shoutouts, the part of the show where we shout out our donors.
Hey.
Now, today, what I expect you guys to do is to shout out our donors.
Good.
Oh, yes.
Can do that.
I think I can pull that off.
No twist.
In a French accent.
Oh, oui. Oh, why a French one?
Because J.K. Rowling...
she like the French.
She like the French, yeah.
What's it more Italian?
I have a really knockout French accent. You guys are going to love it.
I'm looking forward to it, Jake. I am looking forward to it. All right.
I have a feeling it's going to sound a lot like what we're hearing right now.
What?
Jake takes donor shoutouts very seriously. All right, Brandon, we'll let you start with Professor X.
Professor X.
And Mrs. X.
And Mrs. X.
Mademoiselle. Eric and Catherine, the Lovebirds, and little gender indeterminate baby.
Eric and Catherine, the Lovebirds, and gender undetermined baby.
Oh, very nice. Very nice.
It's pretty good, right?
Very nice.
This Frenchman speaks wonderful English. Benny and Dana T.
Oh, you're not doing it?
Oh, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to
Benny and Dana T. Oh, be our guest.
A savvy French reference, if ever there was one.
That is my only French reference.
Okay, Jake, you can at least work a French reference of that caliber in. Jay and Katie, who are cold and love cheese.
Oh, there you go.
Jay and Katie, who are cold and love wine and cheese.
There you go.
There you go.
French people famous for their wine and cheese. Brandon.
Yes.
You can call out our good friend
Maya.
Maya.
Maya. Paris.
So French.
So French.
Oh, man, I can practically hear the accordion music, folks. We are all wearing stripy shirts and berets.
Cigarettes.
Eating bread, smoking cigarettes, holding them from beneath like Euro trash. Okay. Hey, Jake.
Yeah.
You get the honor
yes.
of introducing our good friend, our new supporter.
Yeah?
I'm going to call him DJ Sammy G.
DJ Sammy G, who loves baguettes.
Waka waka. Who likes waka waka. You stepped on Jake's baguettes there, Brandon.
Sorry.
I'll have to ask you to apologize to him.
I'm sorry, Jake.
I forgive you.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that occurred. DJ Sammy G. He goes by Sam. That would be his Christian name, perhaps Samuel. He come to us as Sam. He's got a last name. We don't actually give those out. I'm going to call him DJ Sammy G. What do you think about that, fellas?
Love it.
I like it.
All right. He is our new donor.
Thanks, Sammy.
Thank you, DJ Sammy G.
Illustrious Sammy G.
Whose turn is it?
Mine.
Well, you're going to call out my beloved Mother Beth.
Nathan's.
Yeah, actually good French.
Nathan's beloved Mother Beth. Hey.
It's a very good French accent.
Crossing the Thames there.
From the Cockney Dick District.
Crossing the Thames.
Yeah,
crossing the Thames.
She's just too good of a mother to be French. She's got to be British.
It's just a river.
I know, you got to cross it though.
You got England on one side of the Thames, and then
The Thames is the biggest river ever.
French is on the other side.
No, it's not.
Oh, well, what would you know, Mr. American?
Yeah, he's got his Queen's knickers in a nooseman's knot.
Oh, Nathan.
You might as well take the lorry to the left. Hey, Jake,
Yeah,
do you find great literature to be transporting?
I do.
Is there anything else that you find to be transporting?
David's Mighty Men Transport.
Say something French.
Probably available in France.
Yep, probably.
Probably could be for the right price.
For the right price, yeah. Brandon,
Yeah.
John, and Jill, and little baby Max.
Jean and Gilles and
Oui.
their petit chou, Mac.
Ooh, that's right. You speak French.
That's right.
You speak French, don't
In the
you?
French, that's a term of endearment, petit chou.
Petit chou?
Which means little cabbage.
Okay, can't say that I care for that at all. Robert and Rhonda, the Lovebirds, and little baby Brandon and Jeremy.
Robert and Rhonda, the Lovebirds, and little babies, Brandon and Jeremy, who like the Eiffel Tower.
I'm sure we would.
Probably.
Oh, wait. I'm sure I would, and Jeremy probably would too, if he were around.
If you were around. The Jenny Z.
Genesi. Mon amour.
Jenny Z,
All right.
we understand that she's someone else's amour.
You're someone else's. Someone else's amour.
There we go. Andrew and Esther and little baby Timothy.
Andrew and Esther and little baby Timothy. My little croissant.
You could do Petty Jew or whatever.
Petty Jew.
Is that what it was? Cabbage?
Petty shoe.
Oh, Petty Jew.
Racist.
You've got, yeah, that's true.
Huh?
I like Hitler. I was lying earlier. We've got Lily of the Valley.
Lily of the Valley.
Can you say Lily of the Valley? Can you say of the Valley in French? French?
No, I can't. Sorry.
I thought you studied French in school.
I did, but I don't remember much.
Hey, Jake, how about Jim Beam and little Annie Oakley?
Jim Beam and Les Petites Annie Oakley.
Les Petites Annie Oakley. And finally, Brandon, take it out. Take us home with Nathan, not me.
Nathan, not Nathan.
Not moi.
Not moi. Ne moi.
Ne moi.
No moi.
No.
Oui.
My little immigrant.
Brendan turned into an evil robot there. Hey, thanks for supporting us, donors. Jake, how would you become a donor if you wanted to?
Patreon.com/Bookening. Give any amount, but if you want to hear a shout out, $10 is the price.
That is absolutely right, or more.
Best deal on the list, $50 a month. No, it sounds like a lot, but you get a book every month.
That's absolutely right.
Personalized. You get a t-shirt a year.
That's absolutely right.
You get a donor shout out. You get exclusive behind the scenes content because before every episode, we make awesome videos for our Patreon supporters.
Jake's being sarcastic because I haven't done that very much lately, folks, but we're working on it. Eventually there will be weekly videos.
Also, now that we've hit the $500 mark, we also have a weekly show by the Mysterious Phantom.
Oh, darn. Brandon went and shot him.
Too bad, but I imagine he's probably not dead. What could kill that thing?
I'm guessing it'll happen. It'll happen.
What could kill him? Tried so many things.
You know, there's not going to be a Mysterious Phantom show without Bradley.
That's what I'm afraid of.
That's what I understand anyway. I've never met this Phantom guy.
So for $1 a month, $4 a month, $10 a month, any dollar amount a month, you get access to the Mysterious Phantom show.
Yep, which is coming soon. TBD. Hey, let's get back to the show.
Whoa, yeehaw.
And we're
Trapdoor
back
again.
So we don't have actually a whole lot of context left.
All right, good.
So let's do this.
Let's do it.
We've already talked about our influences, so let's talk about some of the structure, the the literary influences. We talked about the authorial influences. Now we'll talk about the broader literary context in which she falls.
I'm not sure whether I'm comfortable with besmirching the name of the great Jane Austen, my past and future girlfriend.
You got to get over that, man. That's recorded
Past girlfriend?
Oh, if I got a time machine.
She likes Jane Austen.
Both past and future, because it's in the past, but your future.
Right. If I get a time machine, get a Triceratops, take her for a ride somewhere in the 18th century, that would be in the past. And in the future, I will make it this time machine. So it actually is, in fact, my past and future girlfriend.
Jane Austen would have probably liked J.K. Rowling. I just wanted to see your face.
Well, you saw it.
Looks like that just made your head
face.
explode.
Yeah.
So, some of the literary influences or the important literary context to remember. We touched a little bit on it with her bio. Reading was at a decline at this point. Unfortunately, there are articles out now saying that the children that Harry Potter inspired to read, that was kind of short-lived because it seems like children are not reading again.
Universally, it was my observation that people such as my brothers, for example, my schoolmates, they began to read Harry Potter and they enjoyed reading Harry Potter and they continued to read Harry Potter and they went back and they reread Harry Potter. Did it, in fact, lead a high percentage of them to read other things? That was not what I perceived to have happened.
And I think that's what this study was arguing, is that it did not turn anyone into a long lifetime reader.
Yeah. I'm not saying there aren't people that started with Harry Potter and it was a gateway drug. I'm just saying, did it actually work consistently or universally as a gateway drug? No.
But you had these studies that looked at Harry Potter then and saying, look at this, it's getting kids to read again. And then now you have studies coming out there saying, no, it actually didn't. It didn't change that cultural phenomenon that was happening. All it did was briefly give everyone a hope that it was shifting. But it didn't really.
And at the same time, maybe what it actually did accomplish was provide a little shelter for the Jakes and Nathans and Brandons of the world.
Yes.
To get away with reading.
I think that's probably true.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Well, you just got to remember C.S. Lewis's argument that there were going to be some who would read and those who wouldn't. It was just kind of in their DNA. So
that guy.
That
We'll do that book. Have we done that book?
Experiment in Criticism?
Yeah, we haven't actually.
We'll have to do a one-off on that.
We'll do a one-off on that.
Because there are some really good things he has to say and also some really, really horrifying things he has to say.
We'll do that one with Jake. It's not going to be like a Nathan and Brandon special where
we'll need Jake to be a part of that conversation. Yeah.
In Asia or something. We'll do that, Jake.
We need Jake to be a part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. She didn't reinvigorate the reading. The reading.
She didn't reinvigorate the reading?
The reading. She didn't reinvigorate the reading.
It's pronounced Reading.
The Reading. Mm-hmm. She did not. There have been some interesting articles. I read one recently about how people who read Harry Potter are more emotionally in tune. So like they had some men read Harry Potter and like they were more emotionally aware. Which is
like
just
after the fact.
Yeah. Which is just showing you that reading in general helps you.
Yeah, boo.
I mean, it's just, so basically
study.
what that article was proving is what is one of the main arguments for reading is it teaches you empathy. Mm-hmm. And people who read generally are more empathetic. It's just the way it happens because
you mean people who spend time in other people's heads and in the hearts and minds of characters and they're able to empathize better with
seems
people.
So weird, but who would have thought?
Every time I crack open Mein Kampf, it's just like,
yes,
I understand so much more about it.
Really worried about the way this storyline's going, but okay.
Folks, let's be very clear. I'm a Nazi.
Yes. I think they got it.
I'm not a Nazi. That's just a joke.
So the first thing that we've actually talked about in prior Bookening, ye old Bookening episodes is the fantasy genre. The way it developed, the way it came to be, how it was rooted in like old fairy tales, legends and stuff. So, I mean, she's obviously connected to that past and that history. Not enough that it actually would add any benefit to go back over the history of fantasy. So people can go back and listen to those episodes again. I'm sure there would have been the...
That's what I'm trying to remember.
Something Wicked This Way Comes episodes, those where we looked at the history of fantasy. Yeah. It might be nice to have you get yourself a little primer there if you want it. It's not enough. I don't think it adds enough value to hear to actually bring it back up, other than to remind you that fantasy is a genre that at this time was well established, and that it was so well established that you have very particular categories within fantasy. And so this would fall in... I mean, it would be fantasy, but it would be more the wizard world.
Sure.
And this, by that time, would be a thing. You had, even Disney was in that world with the whole Mickey Mouse with his the brooms in Fantasia. And so it had its own rules and logic that it had to follow. You had the wands that could have the magic and the way that it would control the world and all these things.
The wands and the magic.
The wands, the magic, and the reading. I don't know what becoming. Also, a good reminder that C.S. Lewis, he said that... Clive Staples. We talked about fantasy when we did the Till We Have Faces episode. Mm-hmm. That's another good one to go back to. One of the things he said is that a lot of people who want to deal with fantasy deal with it in children's literature because it seems that with children's literature, it's more acceptable than with adult literature. That's changing today. It's actually interesting to look back on moments and how we've come full circle. Not even full circle. We're all the way across the pond.
Oh, yeah.
Because we have Game of Thrones.
# Game of Thrones, yeah.
We have the Marvel Universe, all these things that are very respected adult entertainment now.
Star Wars is very adult.
Yeah, but if you went back 10 years ago, a decade ago, J.K. Rowling with Harry Potter was kind of changing the landscape. And we already made that point, so we don't need to make it again. But she's fantasy, and we'll get to myth in just a minute. The other thing, and her big influences would be Narnia, you see it all over, and Tolkien. Sure. The Hobbit, the Nazgul, all these Sauron is basically Voldemort, so all these things. With also one other structure that a lot of people talk about with her, and actually wasn't a popular form until she kind of brought it back, was what's called the school story. And the school story was a form that kind of started in the 1700s. It came out of the fact that these boarding schools were starting to establish in England. And we talked about boarding schools a lot with Lewis as well. Boarding schools where you'd have the child go to a school with other children, and you'd have a headmaster over the children. And in these stories, you would have bullies, you would have secrets, you would have rivalries, you would have bravery, you would have the headmaster, you would also have sporting events. One of the most famous ones was written in 1857. It was by this guy named Tom Brown, and he wrote The School Days. It was the only book he ever wrote about school, the boarding schools, but it was highly influential, would shape a lot of the school books that would be written in the later 1800s. This form would stay popular until about World War II, when it would die in popularity pretty quickly. But these themes would be prominent in the books. You'd have, like I said, the bullies, Draco Malfoy. Mm-hmm. You would have secrets, pretty much essential to Harry Potter's secrets. You'd have rivalry, the houses. Mm-hmm. You'd have bravery. We have a point to make that bravery might be key. Jake has a point to make that bravery might be key to Harry Potter, to understanding what's going on. You have the headmaster. Maybe a headmaster.
It's a very profound point.
Yeah, very profound point.
Very insightful.
Jake was the first person to ever think of this.
Yes, it was the first person. I'll stand by that.
Yeah. Will Jake be happy that you're standing by it? I'm not.
Did you know that Gryffindor house is... Oh, never mind. I guess we'll get to that. It's going to be really insightful.
Is it for bravery? It's all over the place, Jake.
I know. It's amazing.
Great point.
I'm the smartest.
Headmaster, Dumbledore, sporting event, Quidditch. And so in this book, School Days by Tom Brown, it was the whole thing culminated in a game of cricket. This, I think, kind of helps you understand why Quidditch had to be such an important part of these books. Whether or not you like the Quidditch matches that take place in the books, and you like the sport of Quidditch, people actually apparently try to play Quidditch, which I don't know how that works. But they do try to play Quidditch. Maybe they do use drones or something. I don't know. But anyways,
I'm thinking of the 1925 film The Freshman, a Harold Lloyd silent film where he's the guy in the glasses that hung off of the clock famously. He plays a young man who wants to go to college, and it's fascinating to watch the movie, which came out before World War II when you said this genre died, because it's obviously referencing a very popular form even up to that time, where he's super excited about going to college. He's excited about making his mark and meeting girls, and not like in a modern sort of American Pie sort of way, but just as a specific kind of rite of passage with its own rules, its own milieu, its own feeling. It's just very specific. And it's something that I feel like we lost some, like you were saying, in the 20th century, but you can find it in a lot of old pre-World War II stuff.
Yeah,
I saw just earlier today that after Harry Potter came out, there's a huge boom in boarding schools.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Across the world, but especially in the UK. And that there, I think I saw a quote by somebody who runs a boarding school in the UK saying that there's nothing that has been bigger for them than Harry Potter. Which I went on a date not too long ago with my wife, and we ended up walking around the campus of IU. just old limestone buildings or whatever. And there's a dorm that people like to call Hogwarts because it's old limestone with turrets and stuff like that. And we were talking about, because we were reading the books, then we were talking about wondering how many students actually chose IU over other schools simply because the buildings look Hogwartsian and the dorms look like Hogwarts.
And the answer is not none.
Not none.
Yeah.
I bet quite a bit.
Well, and you often talk, Jake, about how when you first became a college pastor, you noted the way that society was changing because your students would come in and they would still be connected to their old life, their old friend through Facebook, social media. I think we've lost a little bit of the actual mystique that Harry Potter gives us back in a new way of going to a new place, redefining yourself, finding your place in the social order. Having the ability to start over. Just starting over. It doesn't matter if you come from the Dursleys or whatever. If you're abused at home, you can just find your
that's
place.
What college was, and that's what college can be. And I think for a lot of people who come from the Potterverse, they do try to make it that again, but social media has been something that has prevented that for a lot of people.
Yeah, you don't quite have, the world's a smaller place, and it's sad in a certain way that it's a smaller place.
So many students, I don't know how many students I've over the years exhorted to, they're just living back with their high school friends on Facebook in their dormitories and not being here now. No, you're in a new place, you're in a new community, and you need to be here now and make new relationships and have new friends and be a part of an actual church instead of just sort of, going to classes and then escaping to your social media world of all your high school friends that you don't have real relationships with anymore.
Maybe what you should have done is given them a copy of Harry Potter because it
everything.
It actually captures the romance, though.
Yeah, it would have given the romance of it.
Yeah,
to people.
Anyway,
derailing Brandon.
No, that's great.
Don't normally do that during context.
Nope.
No, that's a good point. I had not thought of the romance of Hogwarts.
Well, I want to say, I suppose we'll talk about this more, but I really do think part of the romance and the longevity and the reason that people love Harry Potter, the mystique that comes with the whole thing, is simply the idea of being whisked away to a different societal order and finding your place. It has nothing to do with magic, nothing to do with superpowers, nothing to do with being the chosen one. It really is just going to boarding school and getting a semi-idealized portrait of how cool that would be.
A fresh start with people who actually love you and care about you.
Yeah.
And
exciting
a new
teachers
father
too.
figure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And finding
exciting, fun things to learn, finding yourself, finding out who you are, finding your place.
Yeah, and it turns out your place there is a lot cooler, which I think is a trope of a lot of those British novels from the 18th and 19th century where kids would go off to boarding school. Inevitably, they would, the novels Brandon was talking about earlier, they'd make a really cool place for themselves within that world, and that'd be part of the fun.
It's the Dead Poets Society.
Yeah, exactly. Yuck. But way to bring the conversation down, Brandon.
You got to find their cave and...
Yeah.
That's right.
Boo.
That's right.
Yuck.
Well, there's not a lot left to say then with context. There is the point that what she's developed is a modern day myth. And what do you mean by myth? You mean something that's tapped into, what's that guy, Campbell, call like an archetype.
Joseph Campbell, Carl Jung.
Carl Jung.
Carl Jung would be the archetype. So he would say that this tapped into something so fundamentally human.
Something that we all know in our subconscious and understand.
So, what it would be is it would be these themes of friendship, courage, bravery, and the sacrifice, the good versus evil, all these things.
It's 100% Jungian, and the appeal of it's 100% Jung was right that we need myths. Yeah. And what she did was pop onto the scene with a spiritual myth in a materialistic world and packaged it really well for kids and rooted it in occult symbolism that goes way back and deep down. Yep. And so, of course, it has a ton of appeal.
Yeah, and so
in a lot of the same way that Star Wars does.
Yeah, and so as soon as you get to 6 and they give the big reveal of the Horcruxes, and you realize that it's been throughout, and then that Harry himself is a Horcrux and has to die. Who cares? A spoiler alert.
Yeah, folks, there's going to be spoilers. Like how we always remember to say that after we get the big spoilers.
Yeah. All these things add weight and seriousness to it, which a myth has to have. Apparently, Game of Thrones kind of had that, and then it's kind of lost that.
Yeah. Well, and does Harry Potter maybe not come through with flying cars? We're going to talk about whether she actually pulls it off
She
or not.
attempts to do that. She attempts to give it the weight and the heaviness and the seriousness that a myth needs. And then whether or not it holds true, we'll see.
We'll see.
Speaking of which, if y'all want to hear what we're talking about with Carl Jung or Joseph Campbell,
Mm-hmm.
check out our Hero's Journey episode
Yep.
on Sound of Sanity.
What you should really probably do is check out our Jordan Peterson episode and then check out its sequel.
Follow up with Hero's Journey.
Now, fair warning, Jake will convince you never to read fiction again.
I wasn't trying to, but
But you might.
I don't think you actually did, but
if you're a fan of the show, you have nothing to fear. The Bookening is the ultimate argument against the devil's advocate that I presented.
right. Some people did find it to be a strong devil's advocate, and you did indeed do a great job. I myself do think it's okay for people to read fiction.
Maybe.
Me too.
Maybe.
Brandon's like, we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see what happens.
All right. Any more context in the old context barrel, Brandon?
No, not a whole lot. What we need to end on is just kind of what she said about the world post-fact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it?
It seems she's kind of backtracked on some things or added elements that are very strange. They reveal some about her character, reveal about her political stances and her political posturing.
Mm-hmm.
The most famous one, she said Albus Dumbledore is gay.
Mm-hmm. She sure did.
She has said that Hermione and Ron have a horrible marriage and Ron just can't make Hermione happy.
Yep.
Oh, she's probably said other things too.
She has.
But it's had a very strange afterlife with her, the way that she tries to put her authorial interpretation back on the Harry Potter
her
world.
favorite author of all time, and mine too, Jane Austen, famously knew what the Bennets were up to and what the Darcys were up to and could answer all those questions. I'm glad that most of that stuff hasn't come down to us, and I wish J.K. Rowling, I mean, it's okay for me if she wants to keep, but I wish she wouldn't tell us, because I just think this has nothing to do with Dumbledore being gay or any of those things that I personally might not like because of my convictions. I just think anything she could tell me is going to diminish it. She should just
Let it be.
Let it be.
I don't think she should have given us the stupid epilogue either.
No, we didn't need the epilogue.
Yes. We'll yeah.
But we'll talk.
I think probably a lot of our listeners will agree with us on that one, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
I haven't heard a lot of love for the epilogue.
And the final thing that she said that I think is helpful for us as we talk about magic in general later on.
Yes.
Probably not in this episode.
Probably not.
But is that she says that if the wizards weren't so successful in hiding magic from muggles, what muggles would do is see magic as the fourth science.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a natural force, something that exists within the world, is completely explainable through science if we only knew that it existed.
Sure.
So that's the way she justifies it, and that's the way she explains it.
Just like a lot of people that are into the occult or the supernatural will tell you that, the thing that people perceive as ghosts or UFOs now, one day it'll just be another thing that we understand as part of the natural order.
Yeah, the life force or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So the gravitational force. So whether or not that helps at all, that is the way that a lot of the Pottermore world talks about magic in Harry Potter as a force. Because he really doesn't spend a whole lot of time explaining where it comes from or what it is in the books.
Yes, he's not very concerned with the ideology so much as the accoutrements, the stuffs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't get Dumbledore explaining the religion behind it all.
To be fair, you don't get Gandalf explaining that either.
Yeah.
You do. You got the Silmarillion and other things that kind of paint it in.
Which would be the Harry Potter encyclopedias and all that are apparently coming out.
Right.
3-volume Hogwarts library.
Yeah. So
is that it?
That's it. I think that's helpful to just know that that's the way she tries to paint magic.
Yeah.
Because we will be talking a lot about magic and how we should see the magic and how people see the magic and how that affects the way you read the book. So
the magic. Well, guys, I think the next question that we have to answer before we go any further is, should Christians read Harry Potter?
Yeah, we should figure this out, Nathan.
Inquiring minds want to know, as they say.
I mean, she drew pretty heavily from actual
occultic practices and neo-paganism.
Oh, yeah, you have a lot of blood sacrifice. You have a lot of corpses and skulls and
even just stuff like the Mandrake roots. It's what actual alchemists, actual occultic people, actual magicians, the
Nicholas Flamel, actual alchemist.
Sure.
Yeah.
A lot of the people that she has writing textbooks are convicted heretics and wizards who were burned at the stake.
Yep. And the Bible has some
strong things to say about necromancy and
sorcery
and witchcraft.
And what should happen to those people who practice them.
Yep. And you might think that you can probably guess that we are not going to come back and say nobody should ever read Harry Potter, because it would be sort of silly for us to be doing these episodes. You're probably smart enough, so I'm not going to try and leave you with a Marvel cliffhanger where it's like, obviously, if you know how stories work, it's not. But
is Is Spider-Man going to live?
Right. I dare say the answer that we are going to give, which we've not recorded yet, so I don't know exactly what the answer is going to be, but I think it might be a little bit more interesting and have some more elements to it.
A little more complex.
A little bit more complex, a little bit less. I can tell you this. Let me put it this way. It's not just going to be like, people that think you shouldn't read Harry Potter are so dumb.
Or people that think you can read Harry Potter are
wicked
and need to be burned at the stake.
Right. I think we might be able to fall somewhere between those two things.
Yeah, maybe.
It's a cliffhanger.
Oh, no.
Expecto end of the episode. Thanks for listening, everybody. This is Nathan Alverson, your humble and obedient host. Hey, I produced this thing. Me and Jake executive produced it. Brandon did a fantastic job writing that context, performing that context like a champion, like a Auror, the king of all contexts, Aurors fighting the black magic of ignorance, bolts of knowledge shot from the wand that is his mouth.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You did a great job.
Of course I did. That goes without saying. It's insulting that you would have to say it. Jake, how would a person support the Bookening? We already alluded to it earlier.
Patreon, not Patronus.
Nope.
Patreon, patreon.com/the Bookening.
That's right. People got us over 500, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool of you guys. Thank you so much.
But we always could use a little
Every
bit
little
more.
bit helps. Every little bit helps.
No, it really does. It really does. It goes towards all kinds of important things at Warhorn Media, including certain people's salaries. So I'm always happy when you are able to support our work, and so is everyone here. And what else do we need to say? Go to iTunes. Give us a nice review. Leave us 5
rate
stars.
and review, please.
Yeah, that is really helpful. That is something you can do for us for free, which is a big help. Brandon will now dictate to you what your iTunes or Stitcher or whatever service what your review should say. In 3, 2, 1, go.
These guys knew everything that I thought that I should say and think about Harry Potter, and they're charming, lovely men, really good looking. Support them today.
Great.
Perfect.
I like that the person within the review is actually calling for other people to support us.
Oh, yeah.
So there you go, folks. You don't even have to use your imagination. It's been all dictated for you. You can probably hold your phone up, turn on the dictation software, just let Brandon dictate it.
There we have it.
Next week, we'll be back, and we will solve the question, solve the riddle, the Tom riddle of should Christians read Harry Potter?
And which one of us is Lord Voldemort?
We'll find out next time.